This is Blake Shepard, the voice of Soma Yukihira on Food Wars, and you're listening to a Toonami Faithful podcast exclusive.
Hello and welcome to this Toonami Faithful podcast exclusive. I am your host, Sketch, and with me is my co-host, Paul Pascrillo.
Hello.
And we are joined today by Blake Shepard, the voice of Soma Yukihira on Food Wars.
Hey guys, how's it going? Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for being here. So before we get into the meat of this conversation, which will definitely focus on Food Wars. Yes, we'll all be thinking about Mito, won't we?
and the puns have started.
And the puns have started. We're talking about Food Wars. There will be puns. But why don't you tell us a bit about yourself, Blake? Obviously, you're an actor. You've done some animation. So tell us where you got how you got to where you are today.
Wow, my journey began as a young buck. I started in theater school, going to school for theater design, not even theater. And then towards the end of my high school career was double majoring in visual art as well. So I was doing a lot of painting, a lot of building, and very little acting. And that all kind of changed when a friend of mine whose family owned an entertainment company, obviously we went to a theater school, so a lot of the families were involved in theater, and these were like theater kids. One of my friends in school was actually in the first X-Files movie as one of the young kids that at the beginning of the film, tells Mulder where to go or something. But anyway, he got to meet him and got signed stuff, and it's all cool. But this girl that I went to school with, her family needed a Shaggy. And I want to say this was maybe sophomore or junior year of high school, probably into sophomore, or I guess middle, heading into Halloween. And I had just been Shaggy for Halloween that year. And it turned out that their Shaggy had actually had some bad drugs and gone off the deep end, and they couldn't find him.
That's some method acting.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he was really getting into the role. So they had me step in, and I was just doing Verizon wireless stores. This is before they got really big, and they were just trying to get known for customer appreciation. And it was around the time the first film had come out. So they were basically just sticking a guy in a Scooby-Doo costume, and they had a big cooler full of ice cream, and our job was just to lure kids into the store as they're walking through a mall or something. They'd send me to different Verizon stores around.
Doesn't sound skeevy at all.
Yeah, it's just come on in and have some ice cream, that kind of thing. So that's how it started, and I got hooked in with a couple of different entertainment companies and started just doing voices for characters at kids' birthday parties. So they dressed me up like Spider-Man and Batman and Power Rangers and all kinds of stuff. And voice actor Johnny Young Bosch and I have had a lot of jokes about that, because I was like, yeah, I used to play a Power Ranger too, but it was in backyards doing magic tricks, right? So yeah, we laughed about that. But yeah, it was just kind of a weird start. And then I met a lady who had worked for Stephen Foster with ADV Films, and she's like, they're always looking for young guys with your voice range. You ought to just audition. And so she gave me the number, and I called, and I was on a year-long waiting list for an audition. So back then even it was a really long time. And I just finally a year later they called me back, and I went in, and I don't know. I guess I just did a really good job, and they passed my name around to all the directors, and everybody kind of tried me out. And, it was funny because they gave us a little resume to fill out when we got there. So, I wrote down, all the characters that I had done up to that point over the years. So, it was SpongeBob, Spider-Man, Batman, Power Rangers, Bob the Builder, whatever else came up. And so they thought reading my resume, thought I'd been in all these animated shows.
Ooh.
And they're like, yeah, so, when were you in Spider-Man? It's like, oh, no, I just dress up like Spider-Man and hang out in kids' backyards, on their birthdays. It's
That
like,
doesn't sound skeevy at all.
exactly. So I think that kind of made me memorable too, right? So, just those fun stories. But yeah, and I stuck around. I got some lead roles early on. And yeah, I just kind of have been lucky enough and fortunate enough to make friends, with a lot of people and just kind of stay in the business. So it was just kind of fun. I hit the ground running, and I'll keep coming in as long as they keep calling me. So.
All right, let's get into some of this Food Wars discussion. First of all, how would you say you are similar and different from Soma?
Similar, I would definitely say in tenacity. I don't get discouraged very easily, and I often like to take on tasks that are, most people would call insane. Like, for instance, a couple of years ago, I decided to just start making my own anime because I thought it would be fun. And everyone just thought I was nuts, but I'm still working on it, and it's still really fun, and we're having a good time. We have a little Patreon, and I don't really promote the Patreon ever because I'm not really doing it for money. I'm just doing it for myself, right? So it was kind of I have a degree in animation, so I was like, well, I don't want to go back to school and get a master's. Why don't I just make an animation and that'll be my master's, right? That'll just be my own, like, I'll give myself a degree and like pat on the back, like, good job, you did it. So, in that regard, I think that Soma and I are very similar, where everyone else is looking at us like we're crazy. And we're like, nah, this will be fine. Everything will work out. And if it doesn't, then I'll learn from my mistakes. So, it's kind of one of those things. And I mean, I guess animation in general is like that. So I definitely, I feel Soma a lot of times when he's just kind of rolling with the punches. And then how we're not similar, I'm not much of a masochist when it comes to food. I don't enjoy eating disgusting food. I will eat disgusting food if I have to. And there's not a lot of foods I actually find disgusting, so that kind of works in my favor. But I do not actively seek out disgusting food. I have to say that's the number one thing.
How are you in the kitchen? You a good chef?
Thanks to Food Wars, I'm getting there. Food Wars has really kind of inspired me, I guess you'd say, to dig in and try some Japanese dishes that I've always wanted to learn how to cook. So I think my next really big project is going to be learning how to make ramen using, like, making my own bone broth and doing it that way. So that'll be a fun project. But yeah, I love making fried rice. I love making tempura. Um, you know, any Japanese food is always fun to make. So, and I mean, after going to Japan a couple of times, it definitely instilled in me a love for Japanese food. So, yeah, it's something that I actually cook quite frequently. So.
Hmm. Do you think that Food Wars has done a good job depicting how crazy it is to compete in the cooking world?
I think Food Wars has done a good job of magnifying how fun it is. Like, I doubt people actually have that fun cooking, but by Food Wars standards, like, you'd never actually know it, right? Like, they make it so awesome. Um, I mean, and there's so many battles that stand out to me. I think the characters make it so cool. I love how they gave each character like their own specialties. I just, it's so neat to me how much of a shonen type show it really is. And I really like that they approach it that way.
Mm. Now we should probably stick to just the first two seasons because we've only started season 3 on Toonami now. But of the first two seasons, the first two plates, what are some of your favorite cooking battles?
I'd have to say my all-time favorite number one is Subaru.
That is a good one.
That's my favorite, I think, and it's because he was this character that kind of came out of nowhere, right? Like, you didn't really expect him, and then suddenly he's this like crazy Dexter, like, serial killer trophy getter of all the like chefs, like knives and stuff. So I really liked that. Um, I guess I don't know if is does Kuga count as season? He's season 3, isn't he?
We've just been introduced to Kuga.
Just been introduced. Okay, so
yeah.
he's not necessarily my favorite, but definitely Alice Nakkari. I really like his food war with her.
In the fall
Just
selection.
yeah, just because that one was so interesting because of all the new elements that they added. I really liked all the molecular kind of animation stuff that they did. That was all really fun.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
and she makes this fancy box, and they're like, "Well, this kind of doesn't go with the theme." She's like, "What? What are you talking about?"
Yeah. Well, and that's the other thing too, right? Like you really don't know who's gonna win. I mean, it's really like they were so good at keeping you like questioning who's got it until the end.
Oh yeah, that 3-way battle at the end of the fall selection, like it kept you guessing.
Yeah, for sure. But I'm glad they don't let someone win it all the time. I'm glad that there is like I think he probably loses as much as he wins. I mean, if you were to count up all the wins and loses in the first 2 seasons, I think it's probably pretty even, huh?
Yeah, pretty even as long as you don't count all the losses to his dad.
Right. Well, hey, you can't beat the master, man. You can't.
Yeah. So, what do you think of Soma's relationship with his father?
I really like it. I think it's. I really like that they haven't touched on the mom a lot. I like the mystery behind that, and the like this the. I feel like it in that way is such a Japanese story when the way they never touch on it. Like that feels played very close to the chest. And I like that aspect of storytelling when they don't really give you everything. Like you're left to build that relationship in your mind on your own. And I obviously like, Soma and his dad's relationship is strengthened by probably how much they both love the mom, right? So it's this sort of bond through the pain, which I think is really cool. And then obviously like that gentle competition. And it was it's something that I've definitely identified with, and in writing, I mean, not to bring it back to the project that I'm working on, but there's a very similar dynamic unintentionally between my main character, the protagonist, and her dad as well. And they own like a ramen shop, and it's kind of these fun Japanese cliches that we're kind of casting in new lights, and it's a very similar kind of relationship. So it was really nice to actually create something like that and then do Food Wars and see that same type of personality. Really trying to capture that subtle Japanese, kind of underplayed emotion, but still this very strong connection. So I really like that aspect of it. I like how sort of distant they seem, but also very close.
Yeah, they do seem to be distant but close. It's a good observation. So, have you had the opportunity to check out the Food Wars manga?
I have checked out the Food Wars manga. At first, I was really surprised that Soma's hair was black. That was really weird to me when I was thumbing through the first. I think it was maybe the first volume or the second volume. I can't remember which one I saw first. I think it was the first. But yeah. That's.
Well, it's kind of two-toned, like it's black at the bottom and red at the top.
Yeah, it's weird. I didn't expect it, but yeah, it also impressed me how it's one of the rare shows that I think that the manga is actually less artful than the show. Like I love the inspiration and I love the way the characters are drawn, but I feel like when it's in full color and the food is like in its animated glory, it just takes it to the level.
Yeah, I think motion adds a lot to it too.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Huh. All right. And we got to ask, what was your first reaction to a foodgasm?
You know, it was funny because I was like, oh, this show's not going to be popular. Well, because I mean,
Sure
you know,
about that.
I had such high hopes for this show, and I was like, man, this seems like it's going to be really good. And then I saw the first Foodgasm, and I'm like, this is never going to be on TV because I've done these shows before, and one of the main ones that I remember was this show that I worked on called Mermaid Melody, and it never got to be aired. We actually recorded the entire show, and I was really excited because I played the main character and the main villain at the same time. And Brittany Karbowski was one of the leads, and we're working on this show. And one of the contingencies, I think, was that it had to somehow get on TV. But the studio couldn't make it work because it was too kiddie for adults and too adult for kids. And this is an issue that Japanese animation runs into in the States. There's a lot of really cute, chibi, cutesy characters in shows, but it's very adult, right? Like you see kind of One Piece walk that line, but the fact that it's pirates, it's like, it kind of bridges the gap. It can be a little cutesy sometimes, but it's still pirates, you know? So like you can sell it to a network. So I was really actually nervous the first time I saw the Foodgasms. Because yeah, I mean it's been really funny to watch studios evolve. I have a lot of old ADV DVDs. They used to give us copies whenever we did the shows, and so I have a lot of those old. I mean, now they're like collectible. But they did a lot of TNA on the covers.
Oh yeah, they did.
And then they found out that they would actually sell more of them if they didn't do that, because guys are embarrassed to go to a Best Buy and check out with the checkout girl if they've got a bunch of like school-aged looking TNA on the cover of their DVDs. So that what they thought was actually selling the discs was keeping people from buying the discs. So I don't know. Coming from that perspective, it honestly just made me nervous. But I'm glad that it worked out. Once I realized that the fan service was more of like more poking fun at it than actually being fan service, it made perfect sense. And it completely fell into the theme. And I guess my hope is like, man, I hope people get the joke, you know, because it really is a joke. It's funny, you know, it's not meant to be risque. It's meant to be, I mean, but you also kind of have to understand anime to fully get it. You know what I mean? So yeah,
big reactions to delicious food is something that lots of other manga and anime have done. Like Yakitate Japan, somebody would have this delicious bread, and then they would envision some kind of craziness because of the bread that they saw.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. You know, it's definitely though. I mean, it is it's a staple for the show now. I mean, you wait for it. You know, I mean, and especially with like the first time I saw the director go to Foodgasm, it was just like, oh, please do this. And it's like, oh!
I love that time when they think that the director has had no reaction, but he had actually lost his undergarments.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, I feel a breeze.
Yeah, it's such a payoff. So funny.
So have any of your friends or family seen some Food Wars, and what did they think of it?
They have. You know, a lot of people love it, and it's cool because I think, you know, now that it's on Netflix and it's on Toonami, I think a lot more people are seeing it and they don't even realize I'm in it. You know, so I mean, even one of the local sushi restaurants that I really like and frequent, the waiter didn't realize that I was the voice, and he's a huge Food Wars fan. So now whenever I go in there, he kind of like he has a little fan moment. It's cool, but yeah, it's really crazy. And then he told the sushi chef, and the sushi chef was a Food Wars fan. So it's just really funny. I mean, it's just crazy that it's getting to the point now where anime is becoming a lot more, you know, well known. I feel like, you know, it's come a long way from the days when they used to call it Japanimation.
Oh boy.
So yeah, it's definitely different. It's very cool.
Speaking of the days when they used to call it Japanimation, I was looking at your bio on your website, and it sounded like you did some animation for the Anime Network in the earlier days.
I did, yeah. So this is another one of my Soma Yukihira traits here of always rising to a challenge. So I had been an actor, like I said, since high school. I started when I was about 15 or 16. And I basically just got to the point, in my early 20s where I was just like, you know what? I don't really want to be an actor full time. Like it's kind of, I did the carny lifestyle for a while doing all that stuff. And even when you become like if you were to move to Hollywood and become a Hollywood actor, like you're still kind of a carny, right? Like you see the way it works now with COVID, where now you all of a sudden you have celebrities doing like Sprint commercials, because they're just like trying to find anything that they can do because there's no movies going on. So like when the bread and circus is over, you're still just like a carnival person. So I was trying to find some sort of an avenue I could go in that was a little more stable. Unfortunately, I'm still an artist, and animation is pretty much just more carnival people, but of a different kind. Like, so I didn't really escape it. I'm still just a carny in my own right. But I mean, it is what it is. I embrace it. I mean, I love art, and art's fun, but I don't know. I think that it was definitely fortuitous that I was already at ADV. The Anime Network was sharing a building with ADV. So whenever I would book time, I would just always make sure to go by and say hi to everybody. And because I was in shows, I kind of, I was able to move through and say hi to everyone and say hi to the directors and, talk to people. And, I made sure to let, them know that I was in school for animation. It's because, this was kind of the move I was making, like trying to get a degree. So that hopefully maybe they'd keep me in mind for an internship. And towards the end of school, that's where I started interning, and then I worked there for about 2 years, making all of the bumpers and basically the animations between the shows and the commercials. And they had a few series that they were working on that were like little shorts. So I did about 18 episodes of this show that they created called The Miscellaneous Adventures of Pooh Boy, which was this kind of like cute, karopi, chibi looking baby that just pooped on stuff. And they were just like little 2-minute adventures, and there wasn't really any audio. It was all just noises. So it was pretty fun. And I got to work on a lot of those. And I was also doing the voice of the character anyway. So they started pulling me in to do this little character's voice early on before I started working there. And so it was kind of cool because I got to sort of be the director and the producer and the animator for the show. So it was nice.
So you made bumpers for the packaging for the network. Was any of that a little for the Anime Network? So any of that was maybe Toonami inspired?
Yeah, very Toonami inspired. I mean, back then, I guess it was just called. What was it called? It wasn't called Toonami. It was called.
Yeah, it used to be called Toonami. Or are you thinking of Adult Swim Action?
No, it was. What did they used to call it before? It was called Adult Swim.
Well, there was Toonami and Adult Swim, and when Toonami left weekday afternoons, it became Magoozy. Don't think that's necessarily what you were looking at.
Well, this was back when the only shows they had it was Cartoon, and then they made Powerpuff Girls, and then they made Dexter's Lab. So most of it was still just Hanna-Barbera.
Oh, so like Super Adventures or Power Zone.
Yeah, it was something like that. It might have been Power Zone. There was a name for it. What was it called? Anyway, but yeah, back then, I mean, it was sort of a Wild West because I mean, I was really allowed to pretty much do whatever I wanted. I mean, I pitched ideas and different things, and we just kind of, we just kind of worked with stuff and came up with, concepts. And if the bosses were happy with it, then we just made it happen. So I got to do some original 2D animated cartoons and stuff, and we did some bigger bumpers that were like, it was like almost like Bang Energy, like silly, goofy. Like we'd bring Andrew Love in and have him scream at the microphone for 30 minutes, and then we'd cut all of his lines up and like make a spot out of it. So it was a lot of fun.
So I see you regularly tweet during the Toonami broadcast, often enough having some banter with your in-show father.
Of course.
And how's that community experience been for you?
I mean, it's been fantastic. I've never been happier to be part of it, because I see people getting inspired to share food, and a lot of people are making traditional dishes from where they live, and they're sharing it online, and I just think it's so cool. I think food just brings people together anyway. So having a show that kind of does that too, it's neat, because it sort of transcends, like we were talking about, transcends like traditional anime in that sense, where it's you have all of these kind of very Japanese anime things about the show that people may get or may not get, but either way, like people can always connect with the food. I mean, people see that those shimmering plates and their Miyazaki-esque brilliance, and it's just like, I get it. I know what the show's about. So it's fun. It's very cool. Very cool.
Yeah, I think it's great that Food Wars is on Toonami. It's kind of not a traditional show for Toonami by any stretch. I mean, it's not punching and kicking action. It's it's dramatic moments action. So
Right.
I think that still qualifies as action in a way. You got those dramatic stare downs and everything, but I think the shonen-ness still can appeal to the audience. Like it has all those aspects of different people from different things, somebody aspiring to greatness, and those emotional moments. So I'm glad it seems to be doing well with the Toonami audience.
Well, and it's interesting too, because it's like sneaking education in at the same time.
Yes.
Like you're learning something about different cultures that you might not have known, that are going in the back of your little memory banks, and then one day you're having a food and you're like, oh my God, that's the thing from the show.
You'd have a very educational hour if you put Dr. Stone next to Food Wars.
Right? Very fun.
You'd also have well, I mean, there's plenty of cute girls going around, so there's that too.
No, there's as long as there's pencils, there'll be cute girls, I'm sure.
No, for sure. You can't escape it.
I know.
And handsome men too. Some strapping handsome men.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not as happy about that. I think it's unrealistic standards to hold men to.
That's right.
Women,
absolutely.
They just look like that all the time. I mean, come on. I can't have a six-pack like that. It's just not fair.
Yeah, seriously. That Subaru guy's built like a tank.
Good God, man.
Scary guy. Very scary guy. So
yeah, and Rob Mango just nails it, man. He did such a good job as that character.
Yeah. And I really appreciate that Cookie Bell for it's Soma going up against this guy who's crushed so many people's dreams, and so I was like, no, you can't do that. You're just a fake. You need to be taken down a peg, and I'm gonna be the one to do it. And
right,
it's like, I love those emotional highs that you get in Food Wars. It's like no other shows pull it off quite the same.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the way that they're able to, it's somehow they always top the dishes they've done in previous episodes. I mean, like they're always one-upping themselves, visually. Like if you're thinking about how they plan these shows, it's like, man, like what dishes are they like? How do you keep from repeating yourself?
Come a long way from eggs over rice.
Yeah, right. Well, yeah, I guess they did start pretty simple, right? They kept it. But man, those little gelatin
It looks
Egg.
good.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Really, really
I'd
creative.
eat it.
I bet it tastes delicious. And oh man, that potato wrapped in bacon thing in the first episode. Oh, I want it so bad.
That's another thing, actually. I keep talking about it. I really want to try to make it, but I want to do it as like small potato balls.
Ooh.
Instead of like one large roast. I want to do little mini ones. Because I
Wow.
feel like the
I think that
bacon
would
would
work
soak.
better.
Yeah, they'd soak through better, and then you could just make like bite-sized ones.
I wanted to ask, have you guys ever thought about, like, maybe you and some of the other cast members maybe doing something, recording you guys like making some food, like kind of incorporating that?
It's really funny because so me and my dad, me and Jay Hickman, were talking about, and we've been working on coming up with a menu, and we've talked to a few conventions about it, but we really would like to start doing some food war kind of packages where we bring out a couple of voice actors and we do food battles at the conventions. I mean, and obviously everything got put on hold, because of COVID and all that. But, I had recommended maybe we do something where we have like a section that's just like, everyone, like we buy the ingredients in, whatever city when we get there. And then you have like, ice cream sundae battles or something. Like, you find your Asian grocery store and you buy all your ingredients and you just basically have a big ice cream social or some kind of party at the end, but it starts with a food war between the actors, and then the audience decides who wins.
That sounds really fun.
That might be something like maybe to do on YouTube or do like some kind of like Facebook Live or something like.
Yeah. So Color World did some food battles with some of us. I know I did one with Christina Kelly, who plays Allison Ockery. We did one together, and I also did one with on Twitter. She's called Anime Eyed Girl. We did one together, and I think me and Bryson Bogus were talking about doing one, but I don't know if it's still scheduled. I'm not sure what happened with that. I know. I'd imagine they're pretty hard.
The long-awaited battle between Soma and Aldini.
Aldini. Yeah. That'd be fun.
That'd be cool. Well, we don't want to take up too much more of your time, so what is another series you'd like to see on Toonami?
Another series I'd like to see on Toonami. Man, that's tough, because you'd need something that goes with that, kind of style. Say maybe it's a tough one. Gosh, maybe like I don't know. Something like Hakuoki would be cool, or maybe like Hamatora. I don't know. A lot of the shows that I've done in the last few years have been like 12 episode, or 14 episode shows. Like not a lot of really like long running.
Well, they don't always have to be long running, but they do tend to lean towards those.
Yeah. I'm trying to think if there's any that I can talk about. I know that Non-Baka would be a good one. That would be a good one.
Non-Baka.
Sure. Yeah, that one's great. It's a bunch of prisoners. And it's antics. Yeah.
It's a crazy show.
Yeah, Non-Baka would be a lot of fun. Man, there's probably a few more that I could think of, but yeah, I'll go with Non-Baka. I think that's a good one.
An interesting choice. So you've mentioned a little bit about your animation, but before you go, why don't you give us some further details on some of your animated work that people can check out?
Yeah, so a lot of this stuff is password protected on through the website, but you can go to robotgirlchronicles.com. And I mean, anyone can sign up on Patreon if they want the password. And it's kind of designed so that, people can kind of peek behind the curtain and see how animation's made. So if you don't want it spoiled for you, you might not want to join up. But we have a lot of tiers on there. We even have a $1 tier for people that want to submit robot designs. And if we use their designs, we give them credit as a designer in the credits of the show, so they can get some credits if they need some for their animation or character design career or anything like that. And if anyone has shows that they're working on, we also offer help. So if people want to sign up and send us messages, we can give them guidance on how to create their own shows. And that's the end goal for me with this is, we're probably going to do the first season, maybe the first 2 seasons. We'll do 8 episodes of each. And then we'll end up releasing a Blu-ray or a DVD that'll have special features on how we actually made the show, so that people can kind of see that and then, build from there and do their own thing. But the show's about a girl that fights robots from another dimension. And it's jokingly called Robot Girl. But the joke of the show is she's not actually a robot. It's just a bad translation from the Japanese. So the name in kanji is 14 characters long, and then the English translation is Robot Girl. So that's kind of the joke of it. But in kanji, it's the Chronicles of the Girl that battles robots from another dimension. So
I see. So it's like a Don Machi.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, it's basically just pulling from all the fun tropes that I've noticed all these years, being in anime and watching it. And I kind of wanted to do something that harkened back to the old school, styles of Mazinga Z, and Astro Boy and Mega Man and all that kind of fun stuff, and sort of telling a modern story with it, that's modern in a Japanese sense. We're really trying to stay true to the Japanese art of storytelling. It's a lot of people are trying to do anime right now in the West, and I feel like a lot of it's falling short because they're trying to tell it from a Western lens. And I think that's a mistake. I think the charm of Japanese anime is how Japanese it is. So we're trying to stay in a lot of those same archetypes and tell the story from that perspective. Hence, the kind of distant but close relationship with the dad and all that stuff that we talked about in Food Wars. There's a lot of those types of notes in it. And then it plays between a few different characters. So there's 2 different stories going on at once. And if you go to robotgirlchronicles.com, you'll see a little button up at the top in the navigation for the Arctic Case Files. And that is a group that is also part of the Robot Girl Chronicles universe, but they don't know she exists and she doesn't know that they exist. And they're actually doing research trying to figure out what's actually happening in Japan, because there's a lot of seismic activity and there's a lot of volcanoes erupting, and the media just keeps calling it climate change. But they know that there's probably more to the story. So they're trying to dig deep and figure out what's actually going on. And then, they sort of, the stories sort of cross over each other at different times. And part of the fun is kind of figuring out how it all ties together.
Oh, so there's an interactive element to it.
Yeah. The way the show is going to be released, there's not actually going to be episode numbers.
Interesting. All right. Well, hopefully folks check that out. And before you go, do you have any advice for aspiring animators and actors?
Yeah, I think that, that's wanting to achieve your dreams of, working in studios and being part of, bigger projects is always something to aspire to and something to hope for. But I think that a lot of people forget to work on their fundamentals. And I think with acting and with animation, both fundamentals are so crucial to your success. If you want to be a voice actor, that's great. But if you don't have acting chops, if you haven't been in theater, if you haven't done the work, it's a lot harder for you in the long run um, to stay ahead of the curve, because everyone around you is always getting better when you're around actors, because everyone's always working and they're always trying to get better. So if you're not in that mindset, it's very hard, even if you do get ahead, to stay ahead. And I think the same goes with animation. If you're not working on, how to draw your hands, how to draw feet, working on your anatomy, working on, practicing, particle effect animation, and digging into editing and lighting and texturing and all those things that, not all animators like doing. But, if you really want to get good at it, and again, stay ahead of the curve and stay relevant, you have to do the work. So that's my advice.
It's very sound advice.
Well, guys, this has been fun. We veered more from the food puns than I thought we would. I thought that this was going to be smothered in gravy, but it's
next time I'll offer you a whole buffet.
We only peppered the conversation with entendres. So,
I mean, I like to just salt and pepper in things a little bit.
I understand. Some people keep it spicy, and others, they prefer to save the spice for key dishes, if you will.
Well, I do like to save the best bite for last.
Oh, jeez. You and your puns.
That leads us to the coup de grace.
Yes.
There it is.
Blake, before you go real quick too, where can people find you on social media as well?
I am on Twitter. My handle is, I think it's at Shepard Blake, maybe Shepard _Blake. But I think if you just search Blake Shepard, I should pop up. I'm also on Instagram. I think if you just search my name, I'll pop up on there. And all of this, I think, is available on my website, which is blakeshepard.com.
Yeah, it's at Shepard _Blake.
Yeah, and I've got, I recently added a Netflix section to my website.
I saw that.
Yeah, so if you go there, you can click on the shows, and if they're still active, they should pop up. I'm not a web genius or anything, but I noticed that Netflix had a fun little share button, so I just added the share links to my website.
It has its uses.
Yeah, and
here's the thing I'm in, and here's where you can watch it. Boom.
Yeah,
and we know you have Netflix because everybody does.
Yeah, and if you scroll down to the bottom of my website, you can find my Twitter and YouTube, but I don't have Instagram on here. I should add Instagram. But yeah, and if anyone has any questions for me, or if they would like to ask me anything, contact@blakeshepard.com. They can get in touch with me.
All right. Well, thank you once again for your time.
Hey, thank you guys. I appreciate it, and thank you guys for doing all the tweeting. By the way, I mean, I feel like there's been times when I didn't even realize it was Saturday, and then you guys start tweeting, and I'm like, oh man,
it is hard to keep track of the days lately, hasn't it?
It really has.
We're a well-oiled machine, so to speak.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. I thank you so much. I mean, I know you guys are saying you're not an official Toonami, but you should be. And I mean, at least they should send you some.
Bless your heart.
Thank yous. Because you're definitely you're.
We're not looking for kudos, but we would accept it.
Yeah, I know, right?
I mean, I guess they did let us into Adult Swim, so whatever.
Yeah, we got the tour there.
Well, that's pretty cool. So you guys got to tour it, or what?
Oh,
yeah. We got to tour the Adult Swim building in
was
Atlanta,
that?
Georgia.
Fun?
Yeah, it's an interesting workplace. They got all kinds of folderol everywhere, and we couldn't really look into that many people's offices, but everybody's got their cool feng shui.
course, yeah. No, Funimation is the same way, man. It's a
Yeah, I bet.
Candyland. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, cool, guys. Have a great night.
You too.
Awesome.
Thanks.
See you later.
All right. Take care.